Blood is disgusting to see in real life, but in animation, not really because it's drawn. However, that doesn't mean it's everywhere because most animated content is aimed at kids. If that's the case, what is the best place to find blood in animated content? Your first answer would be adult TV animation, and you're correct because there's Rick and Morty, Celebrity Deathmatch, South Park, and Invincible. Even so, another place to find blood in animation is the internet, and it's more prevalent over there thanks to no TV restrictions. In this video, I will count down the top 10 goriest web cartoons uploaded on YouTube, Newgrounds, or other sites like Mondo Media. Obviously, none of these are for kids except maybe the bonus spot. Also, this list consists of cartoons I've seen, so don't be sad if a bloody cartoon you saw wasn't here. Furthermore, if you're under 17 watching this video, there will be a warning about number 1 and I highly recommend listening to it. Okay, let's begin. Number 10. Pain Girl. This isn't really my cup of tea, but I'm still including it for its goriness. This pilot by Crane is about a girl named Penny Painkiller who murders people with her friends Cakes and Tea-High. That's as basic as the premise you can get. When Penny asks if strawberry is available, she's told there isn't anymore and goes into pain time, even though there is still strawberry. The police come and now the trio have to fight, or in Penny's case, cause bloodshed. The dismembering and disemboweling are a bit brutal to look at, with the most brutal one being when she double kills a police officer voiced by Senior Bello, who is one of many popular voice actors in here. Even so, I have a few complaints about this cartoon. The characters feel a bit flat, like there's no short explanation for why these three are friends. The plot is too simple to invest in, although I have to say it's relieving to see a new Indian web cartoon without deep lore, but still. Finally, the fight ends anticlimactic, with the trio being tased and sent to prison. Come on, Penny and Cake's fusion should be powerful enough to withstand tasers. Also, not a complaint, but most comments focus on the voice actors over the animation. Overall, it's okay, but not too painful, hence why it's number 10. Number 9. Hell of a Boss. This isn't too gory for an indie animated spin-off of Has-Been Hotel about mercenaries who kill for the job. I think everyone knows the premise, but if you don't, it's about Blitz and his employees Millie, Moxie, and his daughter Luna, who run a company called the Immediate Murder Professionals. However, the series doesn't always focus on the job and may have moved away from that direction to focus on Blitz and Storless's relationship. Aside from that, what are the most violent parts so far? Well, there's the part in the Cheer-Up's first episode where nature takes its course. There's the fight scene in the Hawk's first episode where the IMP slice and dice the agents. There's another fight scene in X's and Ooh with one part having a servant of crimson die from a dildo. I think there are more sex jokes than violence in this spin-off about imp assassins. Recently, it's been getting criticism for its season 2 finale, with a few speculating it'll suffer the same fate Ruby did. I doubt it will because Vivian Madrano would have to make some awful decisions for that to happen. As it stands for me right now, it's an okay show. Number 8. Punch Punch Forever. Remember when Speedo used to do grotesque parodies like Dora the Explorer and Teletubbies? He profited from that at some point, probably because of YouTube, and resorted to making softer animations. However, he eventually found a way to mix both things by making Punch Punch Forever. This cartoon, or anime consisting of 62,737 episodes with only 2 currently digitized, is about an 11-year-old martial arts prodigy named Gogo Masumoto who, with her half-demon half-sister Nono, her mom, and her pet frog Cool Frog, participates in a tournament about humans versus a neo-infinite army of demons from another realm. The moment she shows off her ripped body to the demons, you can already tell what's going to happen. I can't determine the bloodiest kill so far. Nevertheless, it's still hilarious with its non-blood humor, like when Gorgo supposedly dodged the demon's baseball with a mannequin replica before the bloodshed, or this fourth wall break of the water in episode 2 spelling "I hate animating water." Understandable. This is also the only indie animated series on the list featured in GlitchX 2024 and has a cameo in Friday Night Funkin'. Strangely enough, this show is, by the creator's words, being sabotaged by YouTube. I can still search it, but if that's true, then why is Happy Tree Friends fine on their book? Oh, whatever. Number 7. Dick Figures. Dick Figures is a black comedy web series by Ed Scholar, who also created Teen Titans Go, and owned by Mardo Media, starring the chill guy Blue and his mischievous best friend Red, who go on misadventures in their crazy world. Now, not all of his humor is violence-focused since there are often sex jokes, but whenever it happens, it's shocking. The bloodiest moment is in the episode Stegosaurus when Red from the future comes to blast the T-Rex and we see all the organs pop out. Still, I don't know what else to discuss about this web cartoon besides the other characters like Pink, Lord Tourette's, the raccoon, and Fat Ugly Girl.
And you can go home.
They had a movie released in theaters, and it's the only web cartoon movie to achieve that. Maybe so far. Also, after a decade of no new episodes, there will most likely be new ones because of its appearance in Animation Plus, which also goes for Happy Tree Friends, which we'll get to later. Number 6. Bunnykill. What if you took Madness Combat but made the characters bunnies? Well, that's not entirely the case because many elements make it different. Also, I discovered this cartoon thanks to a comment on my brother's channel. This series by Motus is about an assassin named Snowball who fights and kills other bunnies in these 5 installments. Besides him, the most notable ones are Smoke, Dust, Professor Sludge, and Ruby. There isn't an ongoing story to follow since each episode is in a different period, but there are great choreographic or choreographic fights to follow. However, that doesn't mean you should pick any episode if you're watching for the first time, because I recommend watching the first one to see how much the quality progresses. This also goes for each episode's different plots, so I won't spoil much. The last one is the Goriest, but it still doesn't beat Madness Combat for me. In fact, it was quite hard to pick which one was higher, but I chose Madness for 2 reasons I'll explain when I get there soon. Obviously, I don't want to downplay Bunnykill as a lesser version of Madness, especially since Crinkles was a huge supporter of the series and there were even talks for a crossover, but the art styles being different prevented it. Number 5. Madness Combat. Set somewhere in Nevada, it's about a mercenary called Hank J. Wilburton who fights and kills other Nevadians throughout the series. The reasons why this is a spot higher than Bunnykill are simple. First, it's more popular. Okay, that's the weakest reason, but obviously, more people know Madness than Bunnykill. Second, the goal is a bit more brutal. Like, Bunnykill has more organs being shown, but Madness opts to have the characters experience the pain inflicted on them. It doesn't help that they're revived frequently, so they remember the pain. Anyway, let's continue discussing Madness Combat. At first, it's just another cool fight animation without blood, but as each installment is released, not only would blood become present and increase over time, but it would also introduce a storyline with major characters like Desmos and Sanford, science fiction like the Improbability Drive, and many horror elements like the Auditor, Scrapface, the Higher Powers, the Abominations, and Tricky the Clown, who you probably first heard of from that one FNF mod. Not saying it's a bad thing to have that be your first exposure to Madness, because it was always going to be an FNF and this mod made it relevant again. Anyway, what else is there to say about this action series with horror that gets more chaotic in every new episode? It's a pillar of Newgrounds culture and to an extent web animation for its bloodshed and holiness like Jeebus. And to think this all started because of a boombox. Number 4. Clayworld.
Well, I noticed that Clayworld spelled with a K.
That's not how we've been spelling Clayworld this whole time, is it?
Yes, and you wanna know why? It means kill. This claymation web series by Robert Benford is about dumb claymen getting themselves killed over and over again, whether it be a rubber ducky, a glass of water, Valentine's Day, or a living murderous hot dog. It's sort of like Happy Tree Friends, but set on a table with claymen who can talk. The most notable ones are Chip, Pick, Hangry, the Giant Clayman, the Police, and of course, Dr. Bob.
Open up your mouth.
Fatality.
Besides its comical violence, there are plenty of memorable jokes throughout the series, like get down on the ground and what did the robot say to the centipede? Stop being a centipede. There's also the direct-to-DVD movie about the Claymen venturing off the table, which was released in 2005, meaning it's the first web cartoon movie. The series finale is basically one of the best finales of any web cartoon I've seen, and while I won't spoil too much, there's one thing from it that still scratches my head. If Dr. Bob was the one rebuilding the Claymen every time they died, then how did this Clayman know how to build a giant Clayman? I guess we'll never know. Also, after years of scamming allegations, Robert Benford is finally releasing the complete series on DVD this year, so this series can finally rest as it should have after the finale. Number 3. Cyanide and Happiness. It's no surprise that the people who made Styx would be okay with all the sanguinary in this adult animated web series, which started as a daily webcomic strip and continues to this day. Cyanide and Happiness is the perfect title for this black comedy series that jests about controversial topics such as drugs, sex, crime, obesity, etc. As I said, it also has so much blood to spare that it's hard to determine the bloodiest moment. I could pick the 100% section from season 2 of the Cyanide and Happiness show, but that aired on TV and I'm exclusively talking about internet episodes for the list. How about the Matchmakers short? That's definitely the goriest short they've done so far, with the second being the Sexy Car Wash short. Apart from the gore, the show has many memorable characters, like Harry the Handsome Butcher, Sad Larry, Ted Bear, the Purple-Shirted Ice Stabber, Lunk, etc. All those characters coincidentally come from CNH's Prime, which is cool, but is it me, or is the current state of the franchise strange? I'm just a bit concerned, but most of the videos from the last 3 years haven't reached 1 million views, and the Kickstarter game, Cyanide and Happiness Frickpocalypse, only has 1 episode out. Also, I don't like the way seasons 2 to 4 were uploaded on YouTube. Why are they separated and titled differently? Why can't it be like season 1's uploads? Nonetheless, it's still a fantastic surreal black comedy featuring murder, spacey shenanigans, and genuinely depressing content. Ice cream and sadness, anyone? Number 2. Happy Tree Friends. Wait, Happy Tree Friends is number 2? I mean, if it were number 1, I wouldn't be warning you about that spot because we would all know what it is. Anyway, we finally made it to the godfather of gore toons, and the reason why most of these animated web shows on the list exist. Do I even need to summarize the premise? The tagline already does it for me. Cute, cuddly, and horribly wrong. Not counting the TV series adaptation, it's impossible to choose the bloodiest moments in the whole franchise. That's how you know it's brutal. It's basically what would happen if you mixed Looney Tunes, Peanuts, and Care Bears, except this time, the slapstick affects the characters graphically. Speaking of characters, how can I not mention Flippy, Lumpy, Cuddles, Flaky, Giggles, and many others as being the most iconic characters in web cartoon history? Flippy especially because his main shtick is his PTSD that makes him kill everyone unless it violates war codes. This series is undoubtedly popular, especially in Japan because who wouldn't want to see these kawaii animals get maimed and mutilated viciously? Maybe South Korea, but certainly not China. What else is there to say that hasn't been told before about the show? Well, there is one thing I could discuss, which is the current status in. It's like Cyanide and Happiness's status, but less strange. And here's why. For years, Happy Tree Friends has been taking multiple hiatuses, but the current one after Still Alive is the longest. In fact, the sales for Still Alive are like a testament to the show's demand being lower than before, with the YouTube uploads proving people would rather wait than buy. Nonetheless, Mondo Media and the creators have been trying to make new episodes, and so far, only 2 have been released this decade. I like them, especially the Dumb Ways to Die crossover, even though it's a weird choice. That's family-friendly gore with more graphical gore, you know? Hopefully, Animation Plus could harvest new episodes and not use AI. But in the meantime, this is where the show stands. I bet if Kapow happened this year, it would have succeeded thanks to web and indie animation popping off recently. Honorable mentions. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. I never really watched Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, but I recently did, and technically puppetry counts as animation, so I thought, why not? This is a surreal puppet web show about 3 dudes in a bizarre preschool show that may or may not have a deeper meaning. I'm not the film theory. It couldn't qualify on the list because the gore is live action. At least Clay Walls was made of clay, so it counts. Regardless, it's a great web series that even got a TV adaptation on Channel 4. Murder Drones. Does oil spilling from robots with their metal organs getting gouged out count as gore? You decide, because the goriest moment is when N decapitates Tessa or Sin melts while Tessa's remains are shown. I can't tell if that's blood or oil. Murder Drones is a complicated show to summarize, but it's about Uzi. Animation, music, and voice acting are superb, but story-wise, it's not a masterpiece like everyone's saying. I'll give it credit for being Glitch's first big hit before The Amazing Digital Circus and Liam Vickers' first time making a full show, but like I said, it's not a masterpiece. Death Battle. Oh, that score of my comfort character. This is the only fan-made web show I'll be shouting out simply because it's the most popular, and I did watch a few episodes. Still, why do some episodes feature goreful characters who aren't appropriate for that? For example, the Among Us vs Fall Guys episode is very in tone with the violence of both games, but at the end, there's just straight up gore. That's very out of tone. I get it if it's Army Man vs Homelander, but why Among Us vs Fall Guys? Otherwise, it's a great show. Space King. Flash Kiss is a mixed bag of web animators, not gonna lie. Like, knowing their attitude, I thought this video was gonna be a what-if scenario where MD Stevenson reboots He-Man, but no, it's Skeletor emotionally hurting He-Man. It's better than what I expected, at least. Oh, so Hoyoverse. I thought you were not only against explicit content, but also followed China's laws against it. Let me just update this chart now. That aside, Space King is Warhammer 40k if it were edgier and grosser. It's about 4 followers of Space King collecting artifacts he's touched throughout the centuries, which is silly, but praise be to Space King. Surprisingly enough, I really like this and want more, yet it isn't too gory to put on the list. Also, I bet if the pilot had been released in 2014, this caricature mocking Helluva Boss would have been Ruby. It's a crime that this ex-indie 3D anime web series never gets brought up in most videos about indie animation, especially since it and its creator Monty Elm heavily inspired Glitch's founders to pursue indie animation. Also, it fell off hard.
Billy!
Anyhow, for a series with a song called Red Like Roses, there is hardly any gore to be found. The bloodiest one is the Red trailer, and that's just the Grim being sliced and diced. It probably would have been on the list if Rooster Teeth included the original cut of, spoilers for Volume 3, Pira's death. Also, on that note about RT,
I'll always come back.
Number 1. Have you noticed something about this list? Every show on it plays gore for laughs or to be action-packed, which makes sense because who would want to see it portrayed as horrifying? Well, there's one person I can name who does exactly that. Little Deadly Thing and his show Pretty Blood. This web series is what would happen if you mixed Sanrio and Happy Tree Friends, except you took away the amusement that HTF has and made the gore more realistic. The main villain, Rennie, is a heavily messed up polar bear Merlino who works for the criminal organization Pretty Blood. She tortures her victims and is pleased by it throughout the series, including her daughter, which happens in the first episode. And let me tell ya, the first episodes are the worst part of the series. The torture drags on for too long and the story isn't strong here. I would say things start to get rolling in the spin-off series Technical, because it's more story focused and the torture is shorter, but it's a spin-off so I should get to it later. The real deal is Red Snow, an arc about Rennie's 5 remaining hostages, Looney, Copper, Balloon, Carl, and Elma having to survive against her inside a cabin during a snowstorm. Unfortunately, various mistakes such as arguing whether torturing Rennie will make them just as terrible as her or just killing her lessen their likelihood of survival. Yes, it has torture in the first 5 minutes, but once it's over, the plot I summarized kicks off and it's probably the best thriller web cartoon I've seen. I'm not spoiling the fate of these characters or the end. You have to watch it yourself if you can. Apart from that, the spin-off series I mentioned before, Technical, is about Mr. Bin, aka Sandy, and his friend Nono trying to stop the company Pretty Blood and its founder, General Alta. Unlike the main series, they have a better chance because of how inhumanely strong and mythical Mr. Bin is. Like Red Snow, I don't want to spoil how the adventure ends, so view it when you have time. There's also Space Blubby, an episode of Pretty Blood about hacked robots tormenting blubbies in a space station. Little Deadly Thing calls it Dead SpaceX Animal Crossing, but to me, the former isn't accurate. If it were, then it would have been about a parasite like the Necroworm. In general, this is a messed up series that surpasses Happy Tree Friends in terms of violence and gore to me. I'm not saying HTF has been dethroned, but what this cartoon offers makes it more noticeable. The only real complaint I have is the sound design. Like, many sound effects are overused, and while I get that it's because the budget is low, it gets repetitive. Ironically, it's at its best in non-canonical commissioned episodes like Just a Neighbor and Rennie vs. the Mysterious Boxer. Another complaint isn't about the series, but more so that kids are watching this. Even HTF is safer, and I saw that show when I was younger. I also saw another web animation I already brought up in the HTF spot, and you know what? Why don't we end the list with a bonus entry? Bonus. Dumb Ways to Die. I didn't originally plan a bonus entry, but here's the short story about why this exists. When I first started scripting this video, this was originally number 10, but then I remembered Clayworld existed, so I had to adjust the list midway through scripting. Enjoy anyway. Starting as a PSA campaign from Metroid Trains Melbourne, Dumb Ways to Die is an iconic music video on YouTube about, well, dumb ways to die.
Eat medicine that's out of date. Use your private parts as piranha bait.
The bloodiest part is when the astronaut Numbskull takes off her helmet and her head explodes. Surprisingly enough, it wouldn't just win several Webby Awards and spawn countless parodies online, but start a franchise consisting of multiple games and a show. Man, playing that mobile game was so fun back in the days. Now it's filled with ads and the safety pledge button is gone. I know it's an odd decision to have this on the list, but I had to because 1, it's basically as family friendly as Gore can get, minus the Happy Train Friends episode. 2, the show I mentioned is on YouTube, so it can qualify here. 3, where else would I talk about Dumb Ways to Die? In general, this is a great and wholesome PSA for the whole family, with a message that we can all agree on.
Be safe around trains, a message from Metro.
That was my top 10 goriest web cartoons list. If you want, list your top 10 goriest web cartoons in the comments below. I'd also recommend checking out the web cartoons on my list. Before I end the video, I'd like to briefly talk about Glitch's first upcoming 2D web cartoon, Knights of Guinevere, created by Dana Terrace. It's a disguised horror story, so original I know, about a killer robot thinking she's a princess. And the reason I'm talking about about it is because it will have carnage. How much is unknown. And no, Disney can't cancel it because why would Dana pitch it there? And I don't believe it's a dig at them, because by that logic, Godspeed, Port by the Sea, and Dylan Goose Studios would be digs at Warner Bros. Discovery and Rooster Teeth. Also, knowing her time at Disney, it's probably best not to bring it up. Still, I'm somewhat excited despite the disguise horror trope being overdone, but I hope it's executed well this time. Why not have it be reversed as the twist? Anyways, goodbye. I should have made this video faster. I don't know where I would place this.